Ethan was used to overnight stays in small, grimy motels. His job as a traveling salesman meant long drives, late hours, and cheap beds. The Hollow Pines Motel looked no different. Paint peeling from the walls, buzzing neon signs that barely worked, and a disinterested man behind the counter. "Room 6, the man grunted, tossing a key at Ethan. "Check-out's at 7, don't make noise." Ethan grabbed the key, too tired to argue, and made his way to the room. It was at the far end of the parking lot, half hidden by an overgrown hedge. When he pushed the door open, the room was as dismal as expected. Faded curtains, a stiff bed, and a TV that looked like it hadn't worked in decades. But it would do for the night. Ethan dropped his bag on the floor, washed up in the tiny bathroom, and fell onto the bed without even turning on the lights. The moment his head hit the pillow, he heard it. A faint whisper. He sat up, heart racing, and looked around. The room was dark, save for the faint glow of the neon sign outside. "Just the wind," he muttered, lying back down. But then it came again, soft and raspy, like dry leaves rubbing together. "You're not alone." Ethan's blood ran cold. He flicked on the lamp and looked around, but the room was empty. He even checked under the bed and behind the curtains. Nothing. Shaking his head, he told himself it was his imagination or just the exhaustion getting to him. He turned off the light and lay back down, trying to ignore the growing unease in his stomach. Minutes passed, and just as he started to drift off, the whisper came again, louder this time. "Ethan, I'm still here." He bolted upright, his breath caught in his throat. "Who's there?" he shouted, his voice trembling. But there was no answer, only silence. Ethan turned the light back on and looked toward the bathroom door. It was slightly ajar. He could have sworn it had been closed earlier. Slowly he stood up and approached it. The closer he got, the louder the whispers became. "I see you." With shaking hands, he pushed the door open. The bathroom was empty, but the mirror above the sink was fogged over, as though someone had been standing there, breathing heavily. Ethan wiped the mirror with his sleeve and froze. There, behind his reflection, stood a figure, pale, gaunt, and eyeless. Its mouth was twisted into an unnatural smile, and its bony fingers stretched toward him. Ethan spun around, but the bathroom was empty. He stumbled backward, his pulse pounding in his ears. When he looked back at the mirror, the figure was closer, its face nearly pressed against the glass, whispering words Ethan couldn't understand. Panicked, Ethan ran out of the bathroom and grabbed his car keys. He flung the door to the room open and stepped into the cold night air. But the motel parking lot wasn't empty anymore. Figures stood in the shadows. Dozens of them, pale, unmoving shapes, all staring at him. His hands shook as he tried to unlock his car. The whispers grew louder, coming from every direction. He looked back at the room and froze. Room 6's window was lit up from within, and in the glow he could see his own reflection staring back at him from the glass, smiling. Just like the figure in the mirror, Ethan turned and ran, abandoning his car. He sprinted down the road, the whispers chasing him into the dark woods. They grew louder, clearer, until they were deafening. The next morning, the motel manager went to check room 6 when Ethan didn't show for checkout. He opened the door and frowned. The bed was neatly made, the bathroom clean, but there was no sign of the guest. The manager sighed and glanced at the mirror above the sink. He thought the door was locked. For a moment, he thought he saw something. Ethan's face, pale and terrified, staring back at him. Then it disappeared. Room 6 was ready for its next guest,